It's the giveaway. It's the giveaway. So first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for everybody for liking and subscribing and commenting on these videos, because that's ultimately what keeps this channel going. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger as this company goes, and so we're gonna give away something even bigger this time. It's time to give away a PSC bow. All you guys have to do to win this thing is the same thing that you've been doing. Like and subscribe to our channel, like every video, and comment. And you can comment as many times as you want. And when we go through and we pick, the more comments that you have or the more likes that you have, along with being subscribed to this channel, only improves your odds of winning this bow. We're literally giving someone a free bow, okay? Just to like and subscribe this video. So if you guys are interested in free stuff, and you didn't win this bow this time around, you didn't win these Vortex binos, you're still entered. Just stay engaged with the channel, keep liking the videos, keep commenting on them, and it's gonna help you win maybe trail cameras in the future, tree stands, things like that. All right, guys, it's spring. It's winter, it's off season for whitetails, but with that, let's face the facts. A lot of your deer are killed by the work that you put in now. There's a lot of different things you could be doing right now. We're gonna go over some of those things that you should be doing so that you can have more success in the fall just by spending time doing the right things right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm one of the biggest proponents or believers in in-season scouting and getting the most recent intel, and I think that's absolutely necessary. You need to do things during the during the actual season, the hunting season, and I think a lot of people don't do that, and that's a whole nother video and a whole nother topic for another day, but it is super important. Make sure you guys are doing things during the season. Let's face the facts though, right now it's springtime, it's winter, and you're looking for things to do. Maybe your season didn't go well. Maybe your neighbor shot all your deer. There's a billion different things that you can be doing right now that can increase your odds of killing a mature buck come fall, and I'm gonna go over a couple of them. The number one thing, and not the most important thing, and we're gonna kind of put these in a hierarchy, I guess an order of which is most important to a certain extent here. So, number one, or number three, I think, I guess we'll say, that I would recommend doing this off season to get out and ultimately learn more about your deer and how you can kill them, is to go shed hunting. Okay, now some of you live in an area where there's not a lot of sheds, and why is there not a lot of sheds? Because there's not a lot of bucks. But go out and try and find some sheds, guys. And what does that have to do with anything in the fall? Well, in reality, that buck very well might likely, if he dropped his shed antlers in and around your neck of the woods, he might have been there in December. He might have been there in January. He might have been there in the tail weeks of the season, which ultimately makes him fair game to you. So make sense of why those sheds were there. Make sense of, was there a bedding area? Was there a transition area? Was there a food source? What was that food source? And you can maybe correlate that to a bunch of different properties that you have and ultimately make sense and say, hey, we found that buck shed here and it was because of this reason. And so now on this property, this scenario would make sense, okay? Think about it that way. It's not just what you're learning about on that property, but you can apply this to all of your properties. So shed hunting is a huge one, guys. We were hunting a buck on public land in Missouri, oh man, a couple of years ago, and he was an absolute public land freak. He tore up this area all fall long, and it was the best sign I've ever seen in my life, probably to this day. Super concentrated, like we were in them. And we actually ended up killing a deer a couple of years after, actually the following year after we found that shed in that area, in that honey hole. But regardless, what I'm getting at is we had pictures and even one encounter of seeing that deer during deer season, but we found his shed there too. So sometimes they'll range off in completely different locations, and you know, they'll drop their shed 5 miles away from where they're hunted, but sometimes they don't. So there's a chance that if you pick up a shed, you might be able to hunt and kill that deer. And let's face it, how many outdoor channel shows or YouTube shows have you seen where, guys, we just picked up this deer's shed 70 yards from here and we killed him here? That's very likely one of the possibilities that could happen just by shed hunting. So I would rank that as one of the top things that you should be doing in the off season to ultimately give yourself better odds of killing mature bucks come fall. The next most important thing that I would say as we get into spring, and even now, is mentally preparing for these things and planning these things, is your spring food sources. So many guys plan to only put in a fall food plot, okay? What about spring food plots, guys? In reality, think about it. Watch a lot of these big TV shows, and although you can't relate to them completely and hardly ever, to be honest with you, but if you're the guy with the property who has enough with a big enough property who has enough area to put in considerable sized food plots in grain that are planted in spring. Guys, if you have those standing late season or even throughout the middle portions of the season, those are going to be the most desirable food sources possible. And you can supplement those a bunch of different ways, and we'll go over videos as to how to plant, you know, the perfect food plot, when and what time, and how to plant it. There's planting methods, things like that. But regardless, think about spring plantings, guys. Plan them so that they're big enough, so that if you're not going to fence them in, if you're not going to use products like Milorganite, which I'll get to in a second, to ultimately keep the deer off of them, there has to be enough so they can withstand browse pressure. Are you using a forage bean? Are you using an egg bean? There's a difference. Forage beans tend to do better when it comes to browse resistancy. So those are all things that you got to think about. Let's take a step back for a second though, and let's talk about that product that I brought up called Milorganite. Okay, Milorganite is a biosolid fertilizer basically made from human waste. It's heat treated at a super high temperature and ultimately used as a fertilizer. It can be used as a fertilizer, but the main reason that it's used is to put it on your spring food plots, or any food plot for that matter, to keep the deer off of it. So a lot of times soybeans, spring food plot, super attractive. So much to the point that they never make it to the season, most likely, unless you planted enough or you kept the deer off of it some way, somehow. One could be electric fencing. Two is Milorganite. So Milorganite, that biosolid fertilizer, smells. Simple as that. Works as a fertilizer as well. And if you put that down, once your plants have germinated and come up above the ground, and we put that down, it's going to keep the deer off of them and allow those food plots to get a head start. I can't guarantee that you're going to be able to get away with that all summer long, because once the plants get tall enough where the deer don't have to stick their nose down into the Milorganite, it's not going to work as well. A lot of rain can wash out a lot of Milorganite. Sometimes I'd like to see as much as 200 pounds per acre of Milorganite put down on these spring plots. So as a whole, guys, start thinking about spring plots a little bit more. These spring plots, even if it's not time to plant right now, start planning them so that they're big enough, and then create the pinch points and design them accordingly so that you can ultimately have more success in the fall when it comes to killing mature bucks. The last thing that I want to go over is in-season scouting as a whole. Like I said earlier on in this video, in-season scouting is huge to me. It's more important than off-season scouting personally, but at least if I can start to put the puzzle pieces together and get a broad idea of what was going on, find the rubs, find the scrapes, find all the sign that was made during the season prior, it's going to ultimately help me kill more bucks in the fall. So getting out there and just walking, obviously it's a lot of fun. Maybe pick up some sheds too, but just learn more about the areas that you're hunting. Learn more about new areas so that you don't have to over hunt the same areas that you have. Save those honey holes that you have for you know, prime time. But maybe you find some new honey holes, and ultimately if you can learn about them and make sense of them, when it's time to go in and in-season scout them and find fresh sign, when it's not nasty, or when it is nasty thick, now you can think, okay, I know I can't see down this far, about 60 yards away, but there's a really good rub line. There's a really good scrape line down this way. Put the puzzle pieces together. Take advantage of the time that you have in this off season to ultimately just make more sense of why the deer are doing what they're doing. In hill country, try and find where they're bedding. Anywhere, try and find where they're bedding. Where are they feeding? Where's the transition area? Now we can go in there during the season, have a lot more success. So guys, those are the top 3 things that I would recommend that you do in your off-season time, your late winter time, and your spring time to ultimately have a lot more success hunting big bucks. If you guys are liking these videos, you really enjoy what we're bringing to you, we're dropping a couple videos every week. One thing that you can do to do us a favor is like and subscribe. Maybe even drop a comment. We're always looking for new ideas to do videos on. So if you have an idea, drop it in the comments. And by the way, we're doing a big giveaway most likely when you're watching this video. And liking and subscribing is only going to help your chances at winning. Maybe it's a bow, maybe it's a trail camera, maybe it's a tree stand. Who knows what it is at this point. But if you like and subscribe, you up your chances. See you guys next time.